All right, let's dig in. I know you and I talked about it yesterday when I was on with you guys. How now that we're like 2 days removed from this, what was the morning like? How are people now processing Bryce? Do they believe that it's over, that there is no more, there's no future with Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers, or do they still believe there's a pathway back?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, just like you, I was a fan of Bryce. I wanted him. I thought this was going to work out. I've been in utter shock to see that he has actually regressed from his struggles last year and gotten substantially worse this year. I did not see that coming at all. But it's been heartbreaking to me just because I feel bad for Bryce. Also, I feel like a big dummy because I feel like, damn, was I just this wrong? And then I also, as a Panther fan, feel like, holy crap, we just screwed the pooch yet again, and this might be our worst one yet. So it's been a lot to process, I believe, for all of us. I thought that, okay, this is pretty much a clean break. Forget about Bryce. And then this morning, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN writes a piece. It was actually kind of like an Around the NFL type piece with him and Dan Graziano. But the part about Bryce with Jeremy Fowler, he mentions that the Panthers are kind of looking at this as, his sources tell him, take it for what it's worth, that the Panthers do in part view this as, hey, let's just sit him down. We don't want to lose the locker room. That seems to be the consensus among the insiders. We also saw Adam Thielen freak out when he was open and didn't get the football, and Bryce wouldn't step up in the pocket to throw it to him. And I think most insiders seem to think there's a fear from Dave Canales that the veterans are seeing this extremely low level of quarterback play and feeling like, this dude, we can't win anything. We can't stay in a game with this guy. And it seems like that's part of the reason. If you believe Jeremy Fowler's sources, there's also a feeling that, hey, we can sit him, let him maybe take a deep breath, maybe let him, get over those mental issues that he's kind of dealing with in the pocket. And he kind of makes it seem like maybe we'll see him again. I don't know. I don't know about you, Adam. I, at this point, almost feel like it's best for Bryce to get the heck away from this place that did not put him into a good situation and probably caused all this mental damage. But also, even for the Panthers, I almost feel like maybe a trade is best for both parties. But that Fowler piece made me wonder if we see him again.
All right, so so many things just off of what you just had to say there. First of all, I do believe Bryce was broken last year. Putting him behind that offensive line with those weapons or lack thereof at receiver, where Adam Thielen was the only viable option for Bryce to throw to with no time and getting sacked 62 times. To me, he was broken a year ago. I argued that they shouldn't have played him last year. Nobody bought it, which is fine. I get it. His brain is supposed to be the best quality that he's got as a quarterback, but I mean, you can be ruined, and quarterbacks have been ruined by the NFL. But here's the thing about Bryce being the idea that they're giving Bryce some time to catch his breath and reset. Why wouldn't that have been what Dave Canales said yesterday? There were two things that really...
He had a chance. He had a chance. He was asked a question about that sort of thing, right?
Right. There were two things that he said yesterday that... And forget about what he said Sunday when he said Bryce is our quarterback.
Yeah.
The two things that he said yesterday that without saying that really screamed to me. One, he said, he didn't say I made the decision. We made the decision, which means David Tepper made the decision to me. And which is whatever. He has the right to do that. He owns the football team, even though it really is him staying on brand. But the other thing is that he never once allowed, and he was asked if Andy Dalton was permanent, if he's the starter going forward, and he had an opportunity to say, look, Bryce is going to be our quarterback, but right now the game is just moving way too fast for him, and we need to, but he never offered any of that. So in my opinion, whether it's Dave Canales, and I don't believe it is, or it's the owner, and I believe it is, he has decided that it's over. So now how do you get out of it? That's my read. I hope I'm wrong because I do think that somewhere in there is a good NFL quarterback.
The thing, he also it was asked the question about what was David Tepper's involvement, and Canales said, I like to keep that private. It's like, if his involvement was literally you just telling him, like, I feel like you wouldn't have to keep it private. So that sets off all our Panther fan paranoia that our meddlesome owner is at it again, at least in some capacity. There's no doubt that sets those feelings out there. And I think you're right. I think if it was I think that's a good point. I didn't think about it, but if it was something like that in the presser, maybe he could have softened the blow and explained that a little bit. Although I have to be honest, he passes on more questions than any coach we've had here. And we've had them all here, Adam, in the last 5 or 6 years. Matt Rule, I wish he passed on some questions because, my God, the longer he talked, the more crap came out of that mouth.
I know.
But Canales is very, willing to be like, no, I'm not answering that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I am a little intrigued, I will admit, as much as I like Bryce personally, and I did believe that Bryce could turn it around this year with Canales' help. I am intrigued to see what the offense looks like with Andy Dalton. Because I do think the receiving core is better, if not great.
Sure.
I think the offensive line, it's fifth in the league in PFF's pass blocking grades. I mean, I think the offensive line, that's the thing that's a shame, is on Sunday, I thought Bryce wasted good protection by literally, at times, not even letting the downfield routes develop and just looking immediately at checkdowns.
Yeah.
Before he even looks at option 1 and 2 downfield. So I'm kind of curious to see better O-line, better weapons, Coach Canales' system that has worked, or he's worked well with Geno and then with Baker Mayfield. I'm kind of curious to see if it could at least look functional on offense, because functional on offense would really feel like an out-of-body experience for me as a Panther fan if I saw functional.
It's been such a long time since they have looked functional offensively. I agree. Look, I have the advantage of not having the emotional investment in the team. I don't.
You're
right?
lucky.
In many ways, I am. I used to have an emotional investment. I used to get mad watching the Jets. I no longer. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. To me, they are comedy. So I'm looking at this from, Victoria is a big Panthers fan. I want her and other Panthers fans to enjoy their team. They don't have to be great. They just have to be entertaining. And right now, there's no entertainment value to watching them.
And there hasn't
depressing.
been for years, right? Even when they have had the defense playing well at times over the last 5 years or so, the offense has been such an eyesore that it's such a, hell, you know how much, Adam, we've been begging the last 5 years or so for a 34-31 loss? You know what I mean? And that actually happened early in Rule's career. Rule's first year, they lost to the Chiefs by a score that might have been around 34-31, if not 34-31 exactly. The Saints, they played kind of a shootout with it. So, they were, ironically, as bad as he ended up being, that rookie year, his first year, they were really competitive.
Yeah.
And it was more fun then. But this miserable stuff where the offense literally looks like it is not even the same sport that some of these other teams are playing. And you know what else they do for me, Adam, as someone that loves the Panthers? They ruin the rest of the NFL for me. Because then I go home and I want to watch Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow. But you know what it does? It makes me pissed off and bitter because I'm like, I didn't even know the forward pass was legal. I thought every pass had to be 2 yards downfield. They have ruined Sunday. They have ruined watching other pro games. So, if Andy Dalton, I swear I will lose my mind if I just see an average offense, Adam. Average. Offense.
And that's what
I would take that.
That's probably best case scenario with Andy Dalton, and that would be fine. That would be fine. Also, to give him a baseline to see, this is what it could look with competent. We're not even asking for great, competent quarterback play. And I hope Bryce gets another opportunity. I think it's more likely that they try to trade him. And look, there are teams around the NFL that, I don't know if they're interested in Bryce, but are probably looking around for a quarterback today. We don't know what the status is for Tua Tagovailoa going forward. We know the Dolphins place him on IR, and we know Skylar Thompson ain't taking him anywhere. So there's an option there. Who knows what happens in Pittsburgh down the road? They could take a flyer on another quarterback. Justin Fields has been okay for them, but you're not winning anything with Justin Fields. Anyway, who knows what the future holds? Let me ask you real quick about Chris McClain, WFNZ in Charlotte, Mac and Bone in the morning. Dave Canales, a question has been asked to me about job security. I think he's got the most job security in the entire league among teams that are no good because David Tepper cares what people think about him. And even though he can hide, he can pretend that this was not his decision, that he just rubber stamped it. But if he fires Dave Canales, he can't hide behind that. And the moth to light is Dave Tepper to whichever way the wind blows. He is so reactionary that is his reputation around the league. He's not firing Dave Canales this year. Frankly, I don't even think he's firing him next year. So Canales has enough job security, at least in the short term, where he could do whatever he wants. So, am I reading that right?
I think you got more faith in Tepper than I do.
Okay.
I get what you're saying. There's no doubt about it.
All right.
I actually do. If this was Dave Canales' idea, I do wonder if it's motivated by the fear that if we keep looking like this, do I end up as the next Frank Reich?
Wow.
That's a thought. That's a thought that I had, and he probably believes. Hell, with Andy Dalton, I can probably do similar things that I did with Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith. I don't know. Maybe for this year, I would probably go with you that I don't think there'll be a firing this year, especially if the offense is able to look functional with Andy Dalton. You know, I think if an offense with Andy Dalton looks like it does with Bryce Young, I think then Canales could have himself a problem at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I think if it ends up looking functional with Andy Dalton, and then you're able to evaluate the rest of the roster, I also think that's probably one of the key moves here is that you're able, because with Bryce Young playing quarterback, as much as I like the kid, he made it impossible to do anything else. Like you literally could not, you could run the football twice and set up 3rd and 3, and he couldn't convert that. You couldn't have any pass game. You knew he wasn't going to throw downfield. Defenses did not have to respect the pass at all. They could load the box. They could, sit on those short routes. So to me, I think this is a lot about evaluating, hey, is the offensive line really better? What about the weapons? What do we need? How about the run game? Can we get this damn run game going that Canales has talked about so much? On defense, too. Could we get a little help for the defense? Could we get some time of possession to where the defense is rested? Because I thought the defense started really well the other night and then got worn down. So I think a big part of this will be an ability to maybe evaluate the rest of the roster and then see what you have. But if God forbid, if this somehow looks as bad as it did with Bryce, I feel like then all bets are off, man.
We'll see. I mean, to me, not committing to the running game is on the head coach. And I was appalled at their lack of commitment to that based on Canales' comments in the preseason and knowing what he knows is best for a young quarterback, or for any quarterback, forget about young quarterback, is to have a quality run game. Chris McClain at MacWFNZ on Twitter, Mac and Bone in the morning on WFNZ in Charlotte. My man, thank you very much for jumping on. I will talk to you next week.
All right, Adam. Be good, man.
Peace.